Last time we met Melissa, a 36-year-old mum of three who burst into tears over an empty toilet roll. Today, I want to explore one of the invisible forces that may have contributed to that moment. It's called the mental load. And if you've ever felt exhausted before your day has even started, then this might explain why. Last time. So, what is the mental load? It's not the doing, it's the remembering, the planning, anticipating, the tracking, the managing, and sometimes the doing, interspersed with all of that. Melissa revisited. So, Melissa said that between work, parenting, and carrying out most of the household mental load, she felt so emotionally stretched thin that tiny inconveniences now feel unbearable. So, when you think about the school events, meals, appointments, remembering that toilet paper even exists, and the whole cacophony of all the things that work, parenting, and household management even covers, that is a lot of stuff. A lot of these tiny little things on their own that add up to quite a big responsibility and weight in all of that. That that Melissa feels that she's doing possibly all by herself. People pleasing. Hopefully you didn't clench too hard or shrink into yourself too much when you heard those words. But people pleasing is one of those things that I think some of us have had more to do with than others. Some of us have learnt that. There's some studies and talks have sort of said that it's more of a gendered thing, that women in some cultures do more people pleasing compared to men. Others have said that it's a bit more of a generational thing, where some generations that was what you did, you served, and some of those internalized messages that whether they were what was actually going on or not, either way, it's the way that it was experienced and then internalized and therefore then emulated, whether we mean to or not. Sometimes those things can happen. Now, something that I remember when I was a teenager was I had a friend who worked in a fish and chip shop, or was it pizza shop? I can't really remember that. But I remember him saying that his boss said that if you can't find enough things to do, then you must not want your job very much. And so just having that as an out of context, that's something that just kind of stuck into my brain. And so then when I started to work, I tried to constantly find little things to be doing, really showing that, hey, I want to be here. Look, I'm a hard worker. Look, I'm doing these things, because I thought every boss thinks that way, which is not necessarily the case. So it's been interesting to kind of watch from the sidelines how that has evolved into different things. Why people that care for other people, and I'm coming back to mums, but people in caring roles, my career path has been a nurse. So you are naturally looking out at all the different things that need doing. You are naturally looking out at what a person might need. You are anticipating all of those things. So you're kind of doing all of those things. You are making sure that people have what they need. Are they warm enough? Are they too warm? Are they comfortable? Do they need some help to just prop themselves up in a more comfortable position? Oh, when was the last time they went to the bathroom? Now I'm coming back to ward nursing here. But some of those are fundamental kind of things where you think, especially when you've got an elderly person who needs help with those things, who can't do some of those things for themselves, or a disabled person who requires extra support for those things and might not always be able to articulate or ask for help when they need it, that you're having to sometimes build in those checks when you go in to give medications, to do vital sign observations and things, that you sometimes get so used to doing a lot. You get so used to looking around and anticipating what everyone might need. You're seeing the things that need to be done because you've kind of picked up this knack of it along the way, or you've watched how other people that you were around pick up that knack of it. Mums and grandmas seem to do it effortlessly. And so you sort of internalize that, and then you start to notice some of those things sometimes. Those responsibilities then start to become your responsibilities. We're people that like to help. We're also people that sometimes struggle to say no, struggle to manage our own boundaries of our time, of our energy, of our resources. And we sometimes will be like, yeah, okay, fine. I'm going to cook dinner anyway, so I might as well cook a dish to go for this potluck. Or yeah, fine, I can pick up some extra XYZ for this thing going on. Yeah, okay, fine, I can make something to bring to the bake sale or whatever it happens to be. And sometimes we just struggle to put those things down because we think that those are our responsibilities because that's what you're meant to do, right? That's how it's supposed to be, right? Which leads me into expectations and judgments. Sometimes internally, we will then be telling ourselves, I should be able to handle this. I should be able to do this. My mum used to be able to do this. I watched that woman juggle this, all while carrying my little sibling on her hip, and it's never seemed to bother her. Or, you have these expectations, or the story that you are telling yourself is that you should be able to do all of these things. And sometimes that story that you also tell yourself is external to you, where you're telling yourself, yeah, everyone expects me to be able to do this. Everyone expects me to be able to do a job, be a parent, be a household manager, make, all of the different hats that we might wear. Everyone expects me to do all of this. So if I don't, then I'm not living up to their expectations. Sometimes it might just be that it's not that they expect you to do it. It's that you've done it so long that they don't know that it is actually a bit of a burden. Which then brings me to emotional capacity. Mental load itself isn't just practical. It also consumes emotional resources. And so let's look at that word emotional or emotion. In the spiritual side of things, you may have heard it come across that the word emotion means energy in motion. So there's always some idea that there is direction, there is receiving, there is giving, there is experiencing that comes along with that word emotion. And when we look at emotional capacity, it is all of that, because you are sometimes taking on that toddler having a meltdown, and you're taking on that their emotions in that moment. Plus also if it's in public, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what about everyone else? Am I disturbing everyone else? Am I upsetting other people because of this? Are they judging me because I cannot get this toddler to not have thrown themselves on the ground and be kicking and screaming? And I've watched my niece do that. It's hilarious because I'm not her parent, but also it is understandable that this is, one person having big emotions that they don't know how to regulate yet, and you're worried about it around you because you're the adult there. And when I'm out with my niece and my mum, I'm thinking, are people thinking that that's my child? And why am I not doing anything about it? When you're spending energy thinking about all these other things, when you are feeling the weight of that emotional load, and I keep going like this because I'm feeling it weighing down on my shoulders, that you are not always able to have that extra little bit of something to give to your spouse at the end of a long day, the kind word that your coworker might need, the ability to say yes or no to an invite for something, because there just isn't any space in that battery of yours, any movement in that energy in motion, the energy part. There ain't nothing there to have motion with, and you are just feeling numb. So what are you meant to do about it? It makes me think of the 3 buckets. Now, you may think of these 3 buckets, of 3 different buckets on the table. And they talk about filling your own buckets first. So then out of that, you have got space to give to those things around you. Or when you have too much in one bucket, it makes it too heavy versus the other buckets. So if we were to look at it as each bucket holds enough energy to do the things, we are looking at a bucket for responsibilities. We are looking at a bucket of emotional energy, and we are looking at a bucket of restoration. And so if we were to think of each of these buckets as being finite, and that's the full capacity for them, and each time we add a responsibility, or each responsibility that we have, there's a little hole in the responsibility bucket. And so energy to do those things, the brain space it takes up, the doing of the task, the time, all of that is leaking out from the bucket. We look at emotional energy the same way. We only have so much resources to deal with other people's bullshit, to have any kind of relationship, to direct towards friendships and romantic relationships and relationships with yourself, relationships with your family. So again, all of those things are a little hole in each bucket where the energy contained within that bucket flow out to. And then you have restoration. And this is where restoration is kind of the opposite bucket, where this is filling in. These are the inputs. These are the things that you do that helps to fill that bucket. And yeah, those awesome days with your family or with your close friends or with people that make you feel better, that make you feel good, that just fills you up with so much love and joy. That goes into that bucket. That helps fill it. That fills that emotional reserve. It creates that reserve there. So I kind of see that there's this input, output going on. There's the refilling, there's the things coming out. And if we're not able to restore, if that restoration bucket of ours is just not able to fill up enough, that it doesn't have the energy for the responsibilities, it doesn't have the energy for the relationships, it doesn't have the energy for self, the body itself to renew, the mind itself to renew, and that it just leaves you feeling so depleted all over the place and just not having anything. Melissa's buckets would sound like they are completely full of holes with energy and reserve just leaking out everywhere on the responsibilities, the emotional energy always drained, and the restoration always drained because everything is pulling from instead of being able to feed into, perhaps, or everything's pulling from quicker than she can actually restore. So I hope you can kind of understand now. The mental load isn't visible, but its effects usually are. When we're carrying too much for too long, even those small things can feel enormous. But the good news is that awareness gives us somewhere to start. In the next video, I'll be showing a guided crystal healing session designed specifically for people who are feeling overwhelmed, emotionally stretched thin, and in need of restoration. I'll see you in that one. People pleasing.